6, 5, 4.
Hi everyone, and welcome to SpeakuP Monday. Today I am your host, Bhavna Parihar, and we're coming to you live from tropical nomad Canggu in beautiful Bali, Indonesia. SpeakuP, for those joining for the first time, is award-winning for motivation. We believe that people inspire people, and that through more conversations we have, the more perspective we gain, and thus the more compassionate we become. We believe that in sharing stories, we can enhance dialogue, challenge our notions, and hopefully be in service to humanity. And today, for the first time, we are hosting our first SpeakuP panel. This will be part of a monthly series where we feature members of our community, leaders in the respective space, to discuss topics that are crucial, that cause us to take pause and question our society, what we believe to be true, and in doing so, help others feel inspired, heard, and supported. It is my honor to be joined today by these two lovely women. Nathalie Banaszak, a success coach for female entrepreneurs, originally from Sweden with Polish heritage, as well as Cathy Zimmermann, who is a public speaking trainer and confidence coach for men and women from Austria. Both of these women have learned to challenge what they knew to be true, to carve out the path they're now on, continue to challenge themselves, to own their uniqueness, and help others do the same. So today, let's dive in our first panel talk.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So let's get into it. So before we had this conversation around owning your uniqueness, the journey to your uniqueness, and I thought to myself, let's take a look at how unique is defined. So unique is defined, if you were to Google it, as being unlike anything else, which in essence is being unlike anyone else. And when you think about it, we are one of 7.5 billion people on this planet. So inherently we are unique. But for some reason, we find it challenging to own that voice, to understand what that voice is, and continue to operate as such. So why do you think that we have this problem or this challenge in society to figure out who we are? So Cathy, let's start with you. Maybe take me back to before you were helping others find their voice. You've done, 4,000 broadcasts where you honed your voice. Prior to that, how did you get there? What challenges did you face to figure out that's what you wanted to do?
Oh, a lot, because actually I never planned on being a moderator. It was never my dream, so that really happened by coincidence, so to say. And I was a very shy child. I was very introverted, actually. I know it doesn't make sense if you're on television for 10 years and on radio, on stage, but I really, truly was. And I still am today to some extent. And that was actually the challenge for me, because I was conditioned, I think like everybody of us, was conditioned in school to not speak actually up, or to not be who I truly am. So for example, when I had a presentation in school, let's say history, in front of my schoolmates and in front of the teacher, he said, you know, it's about the topic, it's about history, it's not about you, it's not about your personality, so please stick to the topic and don't be too bubbly, come down a bit. So just in other words, be like all the others, or be more normal, whatever that is.
Dim your light, don't shine so brightly. Did you face that as well?
Yeah, that's why I'm sitting like, yeah, yeah, hear you. Yeah, I would say, and it's interesting because obviously we've been speaking before this, and I would say what you just shared, like owning your uniqueness, for me, that's so much about embracing your too much, whatever your too much is, while in society, in school, from our parent, like with love in their hearts, you know, we are being taught to not be too much, not to be too expressive, not be too sensitive or creative or whatever. And the thing is obviously that uniqueness, that too much, I feel is exactly what brings out the beauty in all of us. So I can definitely relate, yes.
So why do you think, or maybe this is a question about the cultural side of things, so, you know, being raised in Europe, now taking on roles that, you know, some would say are quite, previously would have been of a masculine nature, you know, helping people find their voice, be confident. The word success, like we typically have been conditioned and trained to think this comes from the patriarchy. So having to challenge that in your respective cultures, in your respective home countries, what was that like?
So talking about Austria, I don't know, of course, about Sweden. We will find out in a second. But talking about Austria, I was actually feeling more like a penguin in the desert. So, for example, the penguin has superpowers in the water, right? He's one of the fastest creatures in the water, where he's really like thriving and growing. But for me, Austria, and that's a huge mindset topic. For me, mindset is everything. If you have a positive growth mindset, I think it's called, and not a fixed mindset, which is the opposite, then you just thrive and you grow and you have successes. But Austria for me was always very more narrow-minded, very small, very conservative due to the history as well. So again, they try more to be happy with what you have, be damn satisfied with what you have, and if you want more, if you have a dream, if you have a big dream, then you're already like not grateful or whatever for the life that you have there. And so this is very difficult. So I decided to be the penguin in the ocean, and right now, actually, literally, I am closer to the ocean here in Bali, because here I am more and more and more in my superpower. Yes, I crafted it back in Austria. And I'm very grateful, and Austria is a great country, and I love it. And it's, of course, a generalization that I'm doing now, because there are a lot of positive, open, cool people in Austria. But generally speaking, it's conservative, and it's a very envious country. And if you are not envious, and I'm the least envious person, I'm such a positive person, I'm an open person, I'm very smiley, bubbly, I'm an independent person. If the setting is the desert, not the ocean, sooner or later you will face a lot of challenges, and it's very exhausting, and it's just not you. So you have to find a setting, an environment that allows you more also to be your true you, basically.
And what about for you? Because you're also kind of straddling two different cultures within a European environment, and one, I don't know if one or the other is a bit more, I guess, forgiving or accepting of women taking on a leadership role. Tell me about that.
Well, I think for me, I never really had a role model to look at. I've been asking myself, where did I get all my big, huge dreams? Like, where did they come from? Because like in school or in my family or like my community, I never really had anyone who was going for something else. So for me, just having that permission to be able to have these big dreams, to wanting something else. And for me, I can relate to what Cathy was saying as well. I feel like whenever I've been out traveling, putting myself in a new environment, surrounding myself with like-minded, that has been giving me permission and maybe guidance as well to show me that there is actually other ways to do this. And for me, to have someone to open that window for me, that has been like a game changer. So I feel, if I would speak from a Swedish perspective, and first of all, I really want to say I am so blessed to be born and raised in a country such as Sweden. I consider it to be a privilege, truly. So that's the first thing I want to say. But when it comes to thinking outside the box, I would not say that that's part of the typical Swedish culture, at least not when I grew up. And it's more like you were speaking about success. And for me, success is such it's a very interesting word, because what does that even mean? Yes, like how do you define it? How do I define it? And Cathy and like all of you here, and for you who are watching, just like what does that even mean? And for me, I felt for such a long time chasing the norm of success, just because I've been programmed and conditioned to go for it, without actually asking myself, hey, is this truly what I want? So for me, it's been a true journey of actually, first of all, knowing who I truly am. Like, how do you even find out what's your uniqueness if you never even had the opportunity to really, really go for it? So I would say for me, it's been a journey of self-discovery and to really understand, like, who am I? What do I truly want? And what's the most authentic expression of myself? And at least not in my school. That was not something that my teachers, we never spoke about psychology. We never spoke about health mindset. Hello, the brain. We never spoke about endless possibilities and the big world out there. It's more like, okay, we have a template, go for this, and you will live happily ever after. And if you don't like it, well, too bad for you. You're just like left out of it. And that maybe could give you guys a little better picture of what I've experienced as I've been growing up.
What I would like to add is I think it's very important and very difficult to shut down these noises from outside. So to shut down the voices from outside who tell you, I don't know, you want to do business as a woman here, okay, then you should, for example, dress like this and that, or you shouldn't wear red lipstick in business because it sounds basic and weird and funny, but in Austria, for example, if you wear red lipstick during the day, I went grocery shopping with red lipstick just because I liked red lipstick, but people look at you in a very judging way, and even in business for a woman, you rather not wear red lipstick. I know, again, it sounds crazy. Here, for example, it just seems to be like, why do I give a fuck? And people are just not judging. They just, live and let live. Do whatever you like to. And this is the growth mindset I was talking about. This is so uplifting, and you can grow so much better if you have people around you that are like that. And you have to search for these people, and you have to be very aware who is in your circle of friends and business partners, how they are, who they are, because a lot of them, they judge you for changing. But you need people who celebrate you for growing. And you have to find these people.
Well, I think, as you talk about sort of surrounding yourself with like-minded people, putting yourself in an environment where you're giving yourself permission to show up as you are, male or female, in whatever role you choose, but also giving others permission to accept you in that way. Because a lot of what we put on is our own judgment first. And I think, the three of us have come a long way from maybe, defying what was the norm for us, whether it was climbing the corporate ladder, whether it was living in an environment that wasn't so conducive to our growth. But that always wasn't the case. So I know that there were, I think we all have like a pivotal moment or some turning points that, someone who I feel like if I was privy to hearing someone talk about this maybe years ago, would I have made a different choice? Would I have made an earlier choice? What are the clues that I didn't listen to? And, I want to ask you two about, there was in one of our earlier conversations, there were these two very pivotal moments, I would say, a turning point where there was probably fear of judgment. There was your own judgment, but in turn it ended up becoming so empowering. And that in some of those lowest moments is where we find our light. And to kind of appreciate that, we kind of need to be in the depths of that. So, Cathy, I want to ask you about Playboy. Tell us a little bit about Playboy and what happened there, what you were thinking, and where it got you.
So I stripped for Playboy. Let's go directly in. But that's like 9 years ago. And I took a bit of a, weird way in business. So I was the presenter that we talked about that already. I was a hospice worker. So I was working with dying people at that moment when I stripped for Playboy. So usually society would say that does not go together. So either you do that or you do that. But I did both and I loved it. But what happened was, when I stripped for Playboy, I got a huge shitstorm in the media, like really over 3 months or so, which is long. I was in the news or in the newspapers like almost on a daily basis. And basically, long story short, people, mainly unfortunately women, so female chief editors, wrote about me that I'm cheap, that I'm willing to do whatever for a job. And at this point, I want to say I've never slept with any guy to get whatever job, format, or whatever on television. I'm very proud of that because a lot of people, unfortunately, do that and entertain that. But this shitstorm and these people in the media made me believe that I'm shit. Because the things they wrote about me, which had absolutely nothing to do with my personality, also the people who wrote it, they didn't even speak like 3 sentences with me ever, that made me feel very bad, very sad, very angry. It made me question almost everything, people just in general, and how fast they put you down just because they can, because they are in the position of doing so. and nobody gave a fuck, basically. And that was this kind of turning point, because I felt so low that I started to hide, basically. And I went into a 2 months isolation at home and started to meditate daily. I didn't do anything else but eat, being on the toilet, go to the park that I liked, and meditate. That was basically it for 2 months. And while I was doing this, I actually rediscovered myself. And I really connected with myself again, because actually Europe tends to make you feel disconnected due to the pressure, the society pressure, and whatever is identified. You are identified by numbers, how much you earn, how much revenue you bring to a corporate company, whatever it is. So this was the time when I discovered myself in meditation and started to like myself again, because I was like, just because you all say that I'm shit or I'm cheap or I'm willing to do whatever does not mean that that's actually not who I am. And I know what I can, I know who I am, but I had to train that. As weird as it sounds, I had to train it and reprogram myself actually back to liking me, and then really having the courage to show up as a coach and using my name in a positive, like to a positive connection instead of the Playboy. So, yeah.
Well, in that process of having to sort of like uncondition and then reprogram, right? And doing so and being so transparent with it is what allows you to move through what you do now and look at that moment when people are, saying these negative things about you. And I think for anyone who's, I think we've all been on the receiving end of mean words, of at times bullying, judgment, and that merely is a person's projection, right? They're triggered by what you might be doing, what you might be saying. They may not feel comfortable to do the same. It's easier to band together and to put someone down than actually raise them up, because that requires strength, right? It doesn't take a lot to dump something down, but to actually lift it up.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and the three of us were talking, and you mentioned that, you had gone through a period of your own sort of self-shame and hurting, and that was at 16 with an eating disorder.
Yes. So my personal growth journey started very early. I had eating disorders in my teens, and I was 16 years old when I started to see a psychologist. So I actually understood from a very early age the power that my thoughts have over my reality, how I perceive not only myself, but others, the world. And that was I would say that's what actually created a completely new direction in my life. So all of a sudden, I became probably the most dedicated 16-year-old girl ever who wanted to learn, grow, heal, and empower myself. So I started to read everything I could about personal growth, like the brain. Things maybe like a 16-year-old girl normally does not read. But that was like a new field just opened up for me. And I would say that's when a lot of things started to shift around for me. So obviously in that moment I could have chosen, I was like, okay, what do I go right or do I go left? So left would have been, not loving myself and just keep depriving myself of food or whatever, everything that I was doing back then. And the other the other turn would be obviously self-empowerment. Self-love, and that has taken me on a serious reprogramming journey, and I'm still on it because we all talked about this as well. We're all in this together, and just like we've all been programmed, and we still have so much conditioning that we need to clean. So as for me, from my own experience and as working with clients, it's so much about decluttering. And when I say decluttering, I mean decluttering old belief systems that does not fit with my inner truth, my authentic self, or most of all, the highest and most radiant expression of who I truly am. So 16 years old, that was when it started. 1 year in therapy, and so I'm actually very grateful for that experience, because I know for sure that I would have been someone else today otherwise. Yeah.
And I mean, I think you can relate this too. Like, I feel like those low moments, and I know for me, I've had them. I've gone through, a serious car crash, in my early 20s that prevented me from being able to move in a certain way and dance, and that was a big part of my upbringing. And looking back at that moment where I had to start to redefine who I was and how I felt I showed up is, to me now, I would not change that for the world, because you learn so much growth in those deep, dark thoughts. And so what did you guys do when you were in hiding, so to speak? Like, what hacks or like tips that you could maybe give to someone that, looking back now, you're like, wow, that was something that I did, and I'm actually so proud of myself for having done that?
Ooh, well, I think one of the most important things for me, for sure, have been taking the journey from just having the knowledge. That's not enough. What do I do with all my knowledge? What do I do with all my insights? So to really take everything from my mind to my heart, and by that I mean embodiment practices. So I would be the typical very ambitious student, reading billions of books, listening to all the podcasts, taking trainings and courses all over the world, just like getting empowered and just like, yeah, very much up here in my mind. So really to just start to work on my emotional body. How does these thoughts create things in my body? And by that I mean emotional expressions. We are speaking about shame, guilt, self-judgment, fear, anxiety. Like, what kind of expressions does those emotions create within my body? And when I really got that understanding from a holistic perspective, that was a huge game changer. It changed my reality, and it has also changed completely how I work with my clients, for sure. Because, I mean, mindset is obviously so important. We create things by the things that we think. That's a fact. But it's also a matter of taking the journey from head to heart. And yeah, so embodiment practices is for sure getting to know and understand my emotional body. Like, I would say that's one of the most important things you can do. And the link between how your emotion fuels your thoughts will create your actions, and your actions will create your life. So start with your emotions, start with your thoughts, and that will create your actions. So at the end of the day, all of us get to decide what kind of life that we want to live. What's my vision? What's your vision? What's your vision? Like, how do you want to live? What's important? So to get that connection holistically, mind, body, spirit, if you want to call it that, holistic, having a holistic approach, that has been very, very important to me, for sure.
And what about, and I think when you were in hiding, but you chose to take what was a negative experience and turn it, and be like, now I'm going to show up and help others. And
I hear it. So I, to make it really practical, like I mentioned before, I work a lot with meditation. A Sadhguru, huge fan, Isha Kriya meditation. So whoever knows him or has tried it, I could really recommend it. It was transformative. I know it sounds dramatic, but it really transformed my life to do this type of meditation. I worked also a lot with affirmations. Of course, all these things you hear are not new, but sometimes we have to be reminded and to really do it. So I listen to affirmations like, I am great, I can achieve anything I want, I'm enough, I'm lovable, I'm doing this and that, whatever. And it's just more impactful if somebody else tells you that, a voice that you don't know on YouTube, for example, as if you tell yourself that sometimes. So sometimes it's more impactful to get somebody from the outside telling you that, at least for me. And then also breathwork. I had a transformational breathwork experience here in Bali, actually, in Ubud 2 weeks ago. I did some Wim Hof breathwork. Probably most of you know it at home, but what I did here in Ubud was not comparable. It was a shamanic breathwork journey over 2 hours, and it released suppressed emotions. So whatever we suppressed over the last, decades in our body, with a certain rhythm of breath and also crying, whatever happens during this process, was just released out of the body. And after, you're like flying. It is, I can't even describe, like a huge ton of, heavy weight was just lifted off of your body. And somebody's like, okay, you don't know what I'm talking about. And after that, interestingly, like a huge block that came out of my energy. I don't know how to describe it. Since then, doors open up for me and people come in my life. That's almost scary. It's almost scary, as if something opened up into the universe. And the last thing I want to say is social media. social media can be a huge pro and con, I know. But for me, for example, on my Instagram, I'm very personal and very transparent when it comes to private things. So business, I'm good, but love life with me is horrible. To be honest, it's a permanent struggle. So I'm very open about my emotions and struggles on social media, and that heals me as well. It helps me, and it's healing for me to talk on my channel about what is hard in my life, because I have a great community there, and I get a lot of great experiences and tips and hacks from them too.
So I want to touch on, because we talk about the hacks and all the things and where you guys are at now, which is great. And I think we're always constantly, that journey is not linear. That journey doesn't have like an end date or goal. So you're constantly having to, because we are on a cellular level, we are evolving on a daily basis. We are not who we were even 2 minutes ago. Yeah. So when you talk about words like relationships, and you mentioned that, you struggle with that. We've talked about relationships, and whether it's with yourself or with your family, and it's one thing to be in Bali, which is so supportive and conducive to growth and kind of owning yourself in that way, but what happens when you put yourself back, in Europe, North America, or with family members? Like, talk to me about that. What's that dance between this independence you've now carved out with that vulnerability?
Wow, big topic. Can we speak about this for like an hour? No, yeah, I can speak. I actually had an experience that I can relate to very close last year, actually. Long story short, I've spent the COVID time here in Bali, and as for many of us that's been here, and for many in the world, for sure, it's been a very transformational period. And for me, to make the long story short, I felt that going back to my country, Sweden, was for me to go back as another person. And I was actually intimidated, and I was seriously having so many conversations within myself, like, oh, what are these fears? Like, what is this? And I realized I was fearful of losing that authentic power that I felt that I've built here in Bali. And I also realized, because I know that obviously people, relationships, and environments are assignments. So I knew that going back is always where the most growth happens. I know that. So for me, I went home with a very strict intention to just like, okay, my intention is to really stand in my authentic power and do the best I possibly can. Did I succeed like 100%? I would say not. But oh my goodness, that was so good for me, because I would say to visit the old environment, or an
previous version of yourself. Even,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. Or an old environment could be even like family, people who love you, or your old country, your old city, or whatever. Even friends who loves you, and just like taking a bold stand for this is who I am today. And I'm here to shine bright, no dimming my light, no shrinking, no nothing. And to be able to do that in my old environment, that was a test. That was a big test. But I would also say going back was, for me, the most empowering thing that I could possibly do for me. It was not comfortable, but I would say that personal growth is for sure not comfortable. Like, if you're here for growth, we have to lean into the discomfort. So that's what I did. And I went back, and I'm back here now again. And that was a test, for sure.
And what about you? Because I know, Cathy, also with the work that you do, working with both women and men, that shows up at times as a bit of a challenge for you. So you're constantly having to sort of assert yourself in the work that you do. So I don't know if you want to touch on that when it comes to men and how they seek you out at times and what you're doing to sort of combat that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge topic for a lot of women as well. I mean, probably everybody of us as a woman. Well, maybe also as a guy. I don't know. Are the guys hit on by women in business? I don't know. Would be interesting, actually. But what you are speaking about is, as a woman, as an attractive woman who is confident and has a certain type of caring herself, and maybe is up like front in the eye of the public or just of people, doing what she does, owning her shit. This, of course, attracts oftentimes men who claim to want to work with you, but de facto, they want to be involved with you on a more private level or more even on a romantic level. And this is what I've experienced a lot, that you're a lot of times hit on by guys. And if you don't agree to do whatever or to meet them for a dinner at their home or whatever, you just don't get the job, period. You don't get the project. So this happened to me on television. Yeah, you find that funny. That happened to me on television, where I was precisely offered to, if you sleep with me, you get this in that format. So, which I didn't do, like I said before. And I think that's super important, to really be very true to yourself. I mean, anybody can do what they want, but that's not how it should work, to my mind. Everything that is forced, or you have to convince people that they want to work with you or want to be with you in a relationship, that's just not how it should be if it doesn't come natural. So I said no, but this is a big challenge, because it happens still, not on television, but like 1 month ago. Yeah, a guy wanted to work with me on a project and invited me for dinner in the evening at his house. I found that a bit weird, because we didn't know each other well. And I told him off, and 3 days later he said, "We don't need you." Could be coincidence, of course. I don't think so. So this is something I started to accept, because I was confronted with it from a very young age on television. And this is okay for me. So there's nothing more really you can do. I'm actually proud of it, to just, again, stick to yourself and just say no.
Do you feel like both of you, in terms of, like you said, going back, coming back, dealing with having to say no in some ways to business or what could be business, and still, because of the role that you play, right? And like, if I'm talking like I deal in communications, do I get it right 100% of the time? Absolutely not, you know? You're dealing with public speaking, you're doing success. We don't. So that idea of imposter syndrome, like, just because we are guiding or helping other people along a journey, we are on that journey too. And it's about being transparent and helping people navigate that, because we are our own guinea pigs. We are our own case study. So how do you find that? Like, I think we all struggle with imposter syndrome, whether we want to admit it or not. And then it also feels like being in a space where you are a guide or a mentor or a coach, it's like, can I even talk about that? Or will they think that I'm not good at what I do?
You? Me? Oh, yes. And I think, especially like if you're in the coach industry or something, you know, where you're supposed to have it together or whatever. For me, it's actually super important to speak with my clients. Even in discovery calls, like, or when I'm having client sessions, it's like, I'm speaking out of my own experience, because what I'm doing, for example, is so much about connection. You know, I've been there, I get it. And especially, like, I work with women, and having that feeling like you're not, like, we're in this together, okay? I've got your back, you know, I get it. And I think it's very important that we actually share authentically and vulnerably what's been our challenges. So for me, I've been working with, I would say, perfectionism. Yeah, I'm still working on that. However, I consider that to be a force when I can handle it. I'm here to achieve excellence. That's like I have a very high standard for everything that I do, and I'm very proud of that. But I've also been in positions where actually, of course, my perfectionism has held me back. Social media, oh my goodness. I would say that social media probably, maybe, this is how I tell my clients, like, social media is probably one of the best personal growth schools, I would say. Just get out there, you have to show up in vulnerability, be authentic, no hiding, embracing your shit. It's just like, you just have to put yourself out there and own your uniqueness. So yeah, for sure, if we're speaking about imposter syndrome, and also for me, a big thing would definitely be working with my own inner self-dialogue. Even if I have all the, well, not all of that, but like so many tools and knowledge, but all of that, but to truly implement it on myself. But also giving myself permission. I don't need to have it together 100% of the time. I'm a human being having a human experience, and that's okay. So actually, self-compassion, self-love in the whole context, and that's a forever practice as well, yeah? So yeah, definitely. And just so many of these old limiting beliefs that's sometimes, they still sneak up, of course. So, I would say the reason that the people, well, we and like who are coaches and so on, the reason we have become like good in what we're doing is because we've been practicing for
and
a
failing
long time.
a lot.
Yes, it's like failing our way forward. So for me, like, Yeah, as I said, I started when I was 16 years old working on myself. So obviously I've been learning a bunch of stuff, and I'm still learning. I always feel like, yeah, the more, the saying, the more you learn, the more there is to learn. So I feel like very humble. I consider myself to be a student of life, for sure. But also, I am proud to say that, you know what, I learned billions of things on my journey. And it gives me so much meaning and fulfillment to know that I can use this experience to help others. And that's why I'm so massively passionate about helping others, because for me, again, I'm not saying that I always have things together, but training my own inner state of being, unbecoming all the things that I used to believe that I needed to be, and liberate myself from that. For me, that is like the biggest reward there could possibly be. Like, it's priceless, even though I still have to work on stuff. That's another point, of course. So for me, it's just, yeah, a huge drive for what I do, helping others to find their paths to that kind of liberation. Yeah, now I get totally passionate. But yes, yes.
But that's the beauty, right? That there's this like fabulosity in failure. It gives us adventure, gives us meat, it adds to our story. Tell me a moment, imposter syndrome, failing moment where you felt fabulous but scared.
One only, okay. Let me think. No, that's what I talked about, like with Robert, who just joined as well. The last time I failed so many times in my life, and due to my job as a television presenter, you fail live on camera in front of a lot of people. So you learn basically that you should not take yourself too seriously, and I just cope with laughing about myself as well a lot. So just, again, not taking myself too seriously, because life is serious enough sometimes. You don't have to be like, I don't know, serious all the time. So just give yourself the allowance to be lighter, and nobody kills you for mistakes. Like I also said, the audience likes you. People usually like you. We only always think that because you look like that, maybe you don't like me, and then our own movie in our head starts. But that's mostly not true. Most of the people like us in the audience. Most of the people here probably like us, I think. And that's the mindset also that we, I think, have to implement, and also be maybe more proud of ourselves as well. Because I think imposter syndrome is also when people like define your success by luck. So she was lucky only, and that's why she's successful. Nope. So to acknowledge that I'm not successful because I'm only lucky, but because I'm talented, I'm witty, I'm clever, I'm this and that's, I'm working hard. I'm working harder than other people. Yeah, this is what you have to be proud of, and this is what you have to become aware of to just shine.
So then maybe defying, we say, we talked about challenging and defying the norms. So maybe it's less about defying and more about redefining what that norm is, if there even is such a thing anymore as a norm. Maybe norms are put in place to allow society to work in a way that all the cogs sort of fit together. And beautiful, that's what we need, for society. But if you had to redefine a norm, whether it's with yourself, with your culture, with your family. We talked a little bit about, your mom, and she raised you, Cathy, to be really independent. But now the idea of you are now leading this life of independence here. Yeah.
She doesn't like it.
Exactly. So it's like this dance between, kind of going back into that state. What's that like? I feel like, we're constantly having to redefine what it looks like and educating other people on just showing up as we are, for them to accept that.
Okay, call the talk. 3 women who just loves to talk. Okay.
So, me? Yeah. Okay. What was the question? The norm, right? Why do we have to create one? For me, I don't know, I read a beautiful quote about fish in the water and birds in the sky, and no fish tries forcefully to swim against the current, and no bird tries forcefully to fly against the wind. So why can't we just go with the flow? I know that sounds easier as it might be sometimes in life, but that's what I try to implement in my life as a norm, if you will, to have more trust in my guidance as well, in which I truly believe in the guidance from whatever you want to call it, universe, the energies, God, whatever. So I really try as best as possible to go with the flow, even when I'm afraid and I'm like, actually, I'm not sure about that, but okay, I trust, so I do. And I think life is about taking risks. If I could give my younger self or anybody else who is watching advice, I would say have more confidence. Because if you're not, then you don't take risks. And life is there to take risks. I mean, what else is the sense in life if not taking any risk and making new experiences? So that's how I try to implement my, if you will, norm.
Wow, I love everything that you're saying. So I'm like nodding like a crazy lady. Yeah, it's interesting. I would say if there is a norm, I would say again, I would like to go back to the word success, because I think it's such a huge charge in this word. And I myself have worked so much about detaching from that word and really create my own meaning. So I think it's so important. What kind of meaning do we put into words, such as success? So for me, for example, I mean, Cathy, you were mentioning like following your own guidance. So for me, that's key. I'm like ruthless when it comes to following my energy. And I spoke earlier about, knowing your emotional body. So for me, I know that when I'm feeling light, expansive, open, then I know I'm on my path. When I feel like, okay, I can feel it in my body, you're shrinking and it just doesn't feel good in your body, then I know for sure that something is off. And that's like a huge warning sign for me to really tap into and just like, wait a second, what's mine and what's theirs? And when I say theirs, like everyone else's or whatever. So just like really creating a new meaning, let's say for success, that word. And at the end of the day, I'm just like here to say, hello, success. Like you get to create the meaning you want with it, which is amazing. We have the privilege of a lifetime. Well, most of us a lot of us here at least, who are lucky to have that kind of privilege, to have that kind of personal freedom to decide for ourselves. So for me, I feel like I've been on a quest where I basically just I've been wanting to own the fact that, hello, there are like billions of different ways you can choose to live your life. There are so many different paths, especially being here in Bali. Oh my God, like there are entrepreneurs and people like doing crazy, wonderful, amazing, inspirational things. And it's just amazing. And like, it doesn't really matter. I feel like as long as you can say that, hey, you know what, I'm genuinely happy. Like this is my truth. This is what it feels right within my heart. Well, amazing, regardless of what you're doing. So I would say, sounds very cliche, but like whatever brings you joy and happiness, trust that emotion and trust your inner guidance, God, universe, heart, like again, whatever we want to call it. But for me, that has been the quest of my life. To just like follow that, and not just like, because in school, it's just like follow your dreams. First of all, you don't really hear that, at least not in Sweden. My teacher never told me, follow your dream, Nathalie. Yes, moving to the other side of the world sounds like a really good idea. And quitting your fancy job and just starting your own business with no experience, that sounds like a good idea. Like, I didn't get that at all. So just like you said, having this huge self-belief, developing an inner trust and faith towards something bigger, and also to yourself, like what's in here, what you have got in here. And just, even when everything feels dark, even when it's been like a massive failure, I've had a couple of them as well, I would say, even when it's like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, oh, why can't I just be like everyone else? It would have been just so much easier. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. I'm not saying it's easy, but but like carving your own path, I would say it takes something. So what you were saying before, it's not about luck. It's not. It's about dedication, commitment, and really being willing to show up for challenges and daily challenges, and be willing to step outside the comfort zone, because it's called comfort zone for a reason. It's very comfy in the comfort zone. I like the comfort zone is good. Like, it's nice. But if you have a personality, I think we do here. It's just like, well, what's on the other side? Yeah, and for me, I've always been a very curious soul. What's out there? And like I shared earlier, like I've been traveling so much, so I've always been presented for something outside of the box. So it's just like, well, if they can do it, I mean, I can too. And I think like we dream through people. We dream through people. And so to just have community, like you said, Cathy, and like we spoke about, surround yourself with like-minded. They can be totally different from you, but people who encourage your craziness, even when you're like down there and feeling small, I would say those are my people for sure. I have some of them here actually in the audience, and I would say that makes all the difference. I even say to my clients, I actually consider community to be a success strategy. We can speak about mindset, we can speak about exercise, nutrition, and all of those kind of things and strategies business-wise. But oh goodness, having a community of like-minded, strong, passionate, driven women who will cheer on you and applaud and just like, wow, you look fierce, wow, and if you're down there, they will sure bring you up. So I just got super passionate here.
Yeah, no, I love it.
But yes.
I think, so this is the thing, is that, and this might be a bit of a polarizing topic or question, but I think we do have it really good. I mean, let's be honest, right? We are on a Monday evening in this beautiful tropical environment getting to share stories and talk, and we've been privileged enough that, we talked about sort of the immigrant experience, and our parents had to focus on stability, had to focus on safety, had to focus on providing for, which allowed us to go and do what was unconventional, allowed us to go carve our unique path and discovery, and, we use a lot of the buzzwords, being in Bali that we use around manifestation, authenticity, owning your voice, which some people in other parts of the world would be like, you guys sound woo-woo and out there and crazy, but we're allowed to really embrace this crazy, but not everyone can. Not everyone has the ability. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what does that 18-year-old, when you're being asked to carve out your path at 18, when you haven't had maybe a lot of life experiences, which is why we go through these different iterations, like, what is that 18-year-old who's in, I don't know, some country, city somewhere, just thinking, okay, I need to follow this prescribed path, and I don't have those examples, like, around me. I mean, they look at us and think, well, you guys have it pretty good here. It's easy for us to be kind of talking from this so-called pedestal. But then I would challenge that to say, it's not easy. And as we talked about, we did a lot of missteps, detours, There's that saying that everything that let me down, or everyone that led me down, led me to this. And so through that journey to find your uniqueness is having those falls, getting back up, the detour, being lucky enough to find ourselves here. We have those guideposts, but not everyone does. And so with that, I kind of wonder, like, what does that 18-year-old at home do? Social media might be a form of community where they can find those voices. How do they start to hone those skills so maybe they're not doing it, 10, 20 years later? Yeah, what do you guys have to say about that?
I think, again, that sharing the downfalls is one of the most important things, because that's what I learned. The more honest you are about your own story, and I had a very dramatic life, but you don't see it. Because at many times I was just not showing it. I was wearing a mask that is very strong because I had to be very strong. But I had a very difficult life and very traumatic experiences. And I talked about some of them, but not all of them yet. I still have to figure out if I want to do so publicly or not. But I know that if I told the stories, that I would just inspire people, because they will not feel alone, and they will see, okay, she looks happy, she is smiling a lot, she has her shit, I say it again, together, but she comes from a very difficult part. That's just like me, actually. If she can do it, I can do it too. And that's why it's so important to not only always share the best moments, which we all tend to do, but to honestly, openly, especially social media is such a massive media channel today. It reaches almost more people than television stations and broadcasts, to really share, because I think that's what really helps in lonely moments and people who are down to see I am not alone. She had a fucked up life as well, but now she is successful, and she tells me which tools she used and how I can grow too. So story sharing, basically, storytelling. That's why I teach my clients also to use more storytelling and to, show up more visibly online to sell their products, because people buy people and people buy emotions, not so much the product or the service itself. So sharing with other people, not feeling stupid because you had a dramatic life or you made mistakes.
I agree to everything you are saying. And I also would say, oh my God, ask for support. If I would go back to my younger self, oh my goodness, I used to have an old belief, I shared with you ladies before, but if it's to be, it's up to me. Like very independent, and which I'm very, very proud of. I know I have my shit together most often, but just like asking for help, and not only asking for help, but just being able to receive it. What a practice for me. I'm still working so much on it to just like be able to receive. Oh my God, like get a mentor, and I'm gonna say get a coach. It doesn't have to be me or Cathy. Like just like get a.
But it can.
Yes, it can also. But just like but like get a coach like that resonates with you, that can help you to navigate. So instead of just like carve your own unique path, yeah, good luck with that. But just like, okay, so how do I do it? And someone to hold you accountable, someone who will share on you, someone with that help you to create your vision. So first of all, what are you moving towards? Like if you just, okay, so you're carving a path, but where do you want the path to go, yeah? So for me, it's so important, obviously creating a vision. And I'm speaking about a grand vision here. No need to play small. Just like, what does your biggest vision, like what does that mean to you? But asking for help, whether it's a mentor, friends, community, asking for help and being able, will open up to receive as well. Work in progress.
So it's almost like, because we talked about social media as a tool and asking for help. Two things that people would say, well, social media also can be a super negative place where you're constantly comparing yourself, right? So it's like taking that and flipping it, doing that reframe, right? Asking for support, which some might think of as vulnerability, but there is such strength in being vulnerable and showing up that way. So, when you think of that line, they say that my past is a place of reference, not residence. When I say that, what does that mean to you? Your past is a place of reference, not residence.
Like I said, I think before already, Austria for me is my my former residence, so to say, my reference actually, both, a little bit of both. So I've learned a lot there. That's why I'm very grateful there. I come from there. I am Austrian. I'm very proud of it. We have the best food ever. I could build up myself there. I could build up my career there. And it allowed me to shift to my new residence here. And that's why I'm, just very, very grateful for also that I come from such a privileged country that allowed me to grow up that independently. As a woman especially, I know how many countries there are in which, as a woman, you basically cannot do much, no matter how talented and gifted you may be. So I'm very, very privileged and grateful for coming from Austria. And I could basically form the woman, not that I am today, but I could form the woman that I became until the 7th of October 2021 when I left Austria to Bali. And since then, a lot of transformation has happened again now here in my new residence, where I can build me up more and more, thrive and grow to even help also more and more people, because that's basically my main goal.
And what about like on a soul level, like where you kind of look back at those clues that it's a place that you don't sit there for too long, right? You don't sit in the negative, messy bits, that it's a place of reference, not where you live, not residence. When I say that, does that ring any bells?
As a non-native speaker, can you just explain that again?
Yes, good point. So there is that saying that, we can dwell in our past and we can sit in it and think that that's what's going to define us. So instead of living in that home of negativity, we look at it as a place to refer to learn from, versus actually live in. So they say, don't stay in it for too long. Allow yourself to feel what you need to feel. Validate your emotions. Validate that experience, but don't live there for too long.
Got it. Thank you. Sometimes you either Google it or you ask directly. Yes, for me, because we're speaking about how to own your uniqueness, and for me, I actually speak so much about personal ownership with my clients in my personal life. What does that look like? And for me, I would not be able to stand in personal ownership and authentic power if I would not have had the opportunity to embrace all of me, my full story. And for example, of course, Sweden, that's where I've been brought up. Oh my goodness, every single chapter in my life has been taking me to where I'm at right now. All the failures, all the successes, all the people I'm not even speaking with today, every single little thing. And for me, to be able to look at my past, and this is important, this is what I tell clients, you don't need to let your past define you. It's not your identity. It's not who you are if you don't choose to. You get to choose how you want to define yourself. And that has, when I say nothing to do with your past, of course it does, because that's who you are today. But like you said, and what I do, I help women I help them to become who they most want to be from today and forward. And we use the past to obviously bring that uniqueness so we can get a full picture. And that's the beauty, because at the end of the day, if my life would have started, or yours, what did you say, October? Of course, it's been so many things happening before that. So for me, it would be a place to look back that gives me understanding of who I truly am. It all adds up. In my case, what made Nathalie, it's my experiences in my past too. Like I shared the eating disorders, for example. It's half a life ago, but oh my God, that totally formed me, and because it took my life in a certain direction. So to not dwell in it, to look at it from a place of compassion and understanding and self-empowerment, and to use, how can we use our past to actually leverage ourselves from now on and forward towards the vision. The vision where we truly want to go. So, and to also be able to see what's what. When am I stuck in old stories? When am I creating stories that's just not longer who I am? And when am I creating stories that resonates with my higher self, with my authentic self? So for me, again, getting back to my emotional body, I use my body as a tool to navigate so I can know when I'm in old stories that's coming from the past maybe, and I'll be very sure to know where am I creating stories that resonates with my true self, who I am today. So that was a long answer, but yes.
Yeah, so I think it's that piece of recognizing or listening to yourself, being witness to yourself in all the parts that feel maybe uncomfortable. And in that discomfort is the growth. And the moments, like you said, these moments that could have defined you and brought you down, whether it was the eating disorders and the therapy at 16 or Playboy and having such negative sentiment, you could have chosen that path, but you chose what might have been a harder path, but a more authentic path to actually be let me get in tune with myself. What is it teaching me? What am I witnessing? What's it triggering in other people?
But that's a journey. That's not easy to accept that past when you feel very ashamed of it or bad of it. It's the acceptance part. Everybody's you have to accept your past, and but how? That's really not easy. That's actually the big question, how to do it best.
So isn't the beauty then the journey, as a journey doesn't actually have an end date, right?
Yeah.
So, or an end stop.
Yeah.
So that journey to owning your uniqueness is just every kind of step along the way is checking in with yourself, whether it's a month ago when you had that situation with the potential male client, and just having to sort of do the work on yourself. And I think that's the beauty in that, is that we all, it's kind of like the saying goes, same shit, different rapper, right? We're all human. We're all kind of navigating a lot of the same stuff, but it's giving ourselves permission to do so. And by doing so, we're giving other people permission to do it as well. Go on.
Yeah, no, to just add on to what you're saying, I feel, how do we really view, our inner work? Because, we might commit to an exercise routine, to, to nutrition health or something like that, or a work profession or something. We put a lot of hours into certain things. So for me, like I said it earlier, I feel what's needed is a commitment, a dedication to inner work, like daily internal training. Like you were speaking about affirmations, meditation. I was speaking about embodiment practices, and we could keep on going. There are so many tools, but not just like, okay, I'll do this when I feel like it and hope it will be for the better. It's just like, compared to going to the gym, like if I want to create something like you don't just go one time. It's like a cliche, probably being used so many times, but it's so true. Like treat your inner self-dialogue, like your inner state of being and your inner work, just as you would, taking on a new fitness routine or something. It's about creating new routines that support you, me, us to where we want to go. So I was commitment, dedication, and to be willing to show up even when it's challenging and difficult, and like you said, acceptance. No, I don't want to accept this, and like to really show up in all of that as well, and to embrace that too. Because for me, I feel like it's quite easy to embrace, for me it's been so much more easy to love the happy sides of myself. Well, she's doing good. Yeah, I like it. It feels good. But how do all of us, embrace the parts of us when we might feel shame, when we might feel very self-judgmental, when we might feel anxiety or lost or alone or completely like failures or whatever? How do we cope with that? So daily internal training, I would say, willingness, commitment, and to be just able to show up, like regardless of what the current energy might look like.
But totally agree. Best case before a turning point. Because what we humans always do is we wait until shit hits the fan. Playboy, whatever traumatic event, a disorder, burnout, relationship breakup, divorce, whatever, drama, accidents, and then we start to think we might change something, might want to change something. So if the doctor tells you, if you don't stop smoking, you die in 1 year, then I stop smoking. But beforehand, actually, when everything is still fine, we oftentimes don't. So it would be beautiful to give ourselves this commitment of growth or whatever change before we hit whatever turning point.
So that, when we talk about even like the topic, then really, because I want to give the audience a chance to ask some questions too, and we could have so many talks and dialogues and more episodes to come, is that the challenge and defying norms is actually challenging yourself. It's challenging like that inner voice that is like follow that path that's been trodden by others, versus saying, actually, no, wait, if I'm going to be of value and I'm this one person of 7.5 billion people and I feel like everyone should benefit from that, it's like challenging yourself to own that, knowing that in doing so, you're going to end up going down some of the messy bits that you learn a lot about yourself, and it's the bit of that darkness. But in order to feel the light and to feel that joy is kind of being in there and knowing that there's other people like 3 of us here, as long as many more, who are, in different communities to support that and to sort of redefine and maybe throw away the word norm. Like, how can there be if we're all cellularly different, and that journey to uniqueness is just that, it's a journey. So it's these constant sort of checkpoints with yourself to show up as you, even when that voice inside is like, I don't know if you should do this anymore. It's like, oh, that means I should. And I should keep doing it, right?
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, of course.
Because everything that you're saying, well, everything that we're speaking about here, and we have been using the word permission. Permission has been such a game-changer word for me. It's important. But at the end of the day, we either go out and try to change the world like everyone else. Like, I would want you and you to behave the way I want so that I could feel good. At the end of the day, it's way harder to change the whole world, like the society, like everyone in relationships, in our professions or whatever. So even if it's super challenging and it takes a lot of work, it's massively way more empowering to just tune inwards and realize, hey, what a privilege of a lifetime. myself, in the context that we're speaking about here, have the power to create whatever reality that I set my intention to. And I think that's massively important, because instead of waiting for the whole world to allow me to be who I want to be, at least for me, and I think this goes for all of us, you, me, everyone, we need to give ourselves permission to be who we most want to be. So for you, like, who do you most want to be? Truly. And asking ourselves, that's a question that I've been asking myself, like, who do I truly want to be? And then obviously the journey to showing up that way, that's the transformational journey. But to stop asking others for permission, because I might not even get it. And at the end of the day, I'm not here to be loved by every single one in the whole world. And that realization, social media, for example, like, it's okay. Everybody doesn't need to love me. What a release. It's okay. I'm not here to be loved by everyone. But if I can create something and change my corner of the world, my women, the people I know relates to what I share, that feels massively important to me. So I think we all need, we need to stop asking for permission and instead take this inner quest to give ourselves that permission to be who we most want to be. Speaking about owning our uniqueness, permission. Yes.
And that's are the topics that have to be taught in school.
I do want to give an opportunity for the audience to ask some questions, and while they do, you can kind of think of sort of final words before we wrap up. So, questions from the audience. Oh, one here. I think we're giving your mic for questions. Robert?
Yeah, I would give it a hand. Go open the camera. So, yeah, if you come around that way, you should be okay. Yeah. Other way. Just be careful. Yeah. Oh, so does everyone have I got, that was for everybody else, but it's all good. Hello, thank you so much. The first panel, wonderful guests, panelists, all three of you looking beautiful and as expected, without expectations, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I think what might be interesting is two things. One is, you know, if there's anyone here, either here live or watching, and by the way, this will happen on the first week of every month. We'll have a panel of some description. So Bhavna, you can probably give some intel on what will come the next month. But number one, is there a way that people can find these two wonderful women if they want to connect with them personally? And then I think that would be really, really good. And then number two would be, we're going to be starting these Saturday morning sessions. We're in the middle of working out now, but I think it would be really wonderful because you two have such great chemistry. You might say, well, I'm never going to do it with her, no way. But from what I can see, you have great chemistry, all three of you. So would it be worthwhile, if people want to know more or want to go deeper, to provide that opportunity? And that could be a workshop of some description which is not filmed, it's not on TV, right? It's not on TV. Or if you want to have it on TV, have it on TV. But yeah, that could also be a way for people to tap into this energy that's been created and some of the dialogue and conversations that they would think, you know what, that sounds amazing. I'd love to go deeper into that topic. So they're the two things which come up. And now I'll throw it over to anyone who wants to ask a real question. So probably you can go around this one. So you go through the middle. And then now you can see everyone.
Not really a question, just an opportunity to hijack the conversation and the microphone. But first of all, thank you very much for this amazing, authentic, and very inspiring conversation. As a male, I also enjoyed the insights and a perspective that I will never experience in my life. So that was great, and thank you very much for sharing everything. I wanted to say something to Cathy, you mentioned the hate that you received from the media and or social media, and I experienced this myself, and my 2 cents on it is, I was this lovable guy that everyone likes, everyone loves what I stand for, but I wasn't authentic. And it's only when people started to hate me, that's when I was recognized as a successful person. And all these haters that come to my social media or take the stage to say shit about me, the only thing I can tell them is, well, you hate me so much, but it seems like you cannot stop follow me or talk about me. And your life surrounds about me after all. So that's wonderful, and I really appreciate it. And my instinct was also to hide. And at some point, I decided to shine on this hate. And it allowed me to be even more authentic and more real, because they're gonna hate me anyway, right? So at least I'll say whatever I say, and I'll stand for my real thoughts, and I don't need to think too hard. If I sound right for everyone agree with what I'm going to tell. So hate is amazing, and enjoy it. And really, I worked with a personal brand manager, and they told me at the beginning, Dean, everyone loves you. This is not good. You need to find enemies. You need to have competition. There is no competition. And I started to have this, and this is really where my personal career is launched. But so I can definitely understand the experience at the beginning, but it's amazing the transformation you went through. And I think part of it might be thanks to it. But haters gonna hate, So let them enjoy this, and we're gonna shine on that.
Thank you so much for sharing. If I might add something, I think that's a very important message, because never ever will 100% like you, no matter what you do. You can save a cat out of a burning house and people will not like you. I worked in a hospice with dying people, and people did not like me because they said I'm doing it for the media. So it doesn't matter what you do and how good you think it is, you will never satisfy 100% of people. And that should never be the goal, and it really should take off pressure also off of our shoulders.
So hate as a power for good. Yeah. It's a very powerful tool. Any other questions? Yeah.
We can stay back and have a chat.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to give you guys a moment to share any kind of final words, but I wanted to just take this moment to thank everyone here in the audience. You guys have taken time out of your day to be here, and it just adds it's great to look out and see faces who are nodding, smiling, and resonating. And for those tuning in, just making us a part of your evening. It means a lot to have the engagement and the support and the idea. We hope that you walk away with a thought, a piece of dialogue that you might want to share with someone else. So thank you so much to the audience for being here. And I also want to thank Tropical Nomad for giving us the space to allow us to have these conversations and to kick off the first panel talk. So thank you so much to the team for giving us this beautiful environment for us to share. So thank you so much. And thank you, Robert, for those of you who are joining for the first time. Robert kicked off SpeakuP Monday about 3 years ago. This is episode 257, I believe, and he's been doing it every Monday without fail, which is a huge achievement in itself. And it was born from something, as we said, a bit of darkness. He had people in his network that unfortunately committed suicide. And Monday, if you don't know, is the highest rate of suicide. People come off of their weekends feeling like they have less purpose, family, etc., and that unfortunately is a trigger to take their life. So in response to that, he thought, if we can have a place where people can tune in, they can come to, they can listen, then maybe they'll feel less alone, feel a little bit more inspired. And he's been doing it ever since, and has allowed me to share in the co-hosting as of late, and I'm so grateful. So thank you, Robert, for giving us a platform. And lastly, to these two amazing women who are sharing this space with me and being honest and raw and deep. And, we met like 1.5 times, I guess, before. And we had some initial conversations, and we could have episode after episode of topics. And so I just really appreciate you guys sharing your story, the vulnerability, the rawness, as what we're known for, and the hacks. And just thank you for making the time. So thank you so much. Yay! And with that, to wrap us up, any final words, thoughts, buzzwords that you want to share? I have a final question for both of you that might kick it off. So if you had to bottle yourself up and sell it, so if we could buy Cathy on the shelf at Pepito. If we could buy Nathalie on the shelf at Pepito, what would the top 3 ingredients be? And I don't mean ingredients like, flavors or spices, talking traits. What would those 3 traits be?
Cathy on the shelf on Pepito is funny, confident, empowering.
So good. Oh, sorry. Pepito is a food store here in Bali for
supermarket. But
yeah, just kidding.
Some context,
Yeah. Okay. Nathalie on the shelf on Pepito. You will
Promise
get...
this is not sponsored by Pepito. I just use that as a grocery term. But
Exactly. Because yeah. Okay, you will get, this is a double word, but it goes as one, expansive energy and inspiration and love.
Love that. Thank you. Any final words?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Final thoughts for the topic. Oh, that could be like another sequence. But for all of you guys who are here and for you who are watching, this might sound like a cliche, but regardless of where you are, truly, you are completely limitless if you decide and choose to live that as your truth. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter where you're currently at. Doesn't matter how many times you've been falling down. You are allowed to go for the dreams that you can imagine. Because if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. Final words from me. Yeah.
Love that.
I would like to repeat one message that I brought already today because I find it so important. Again, have more confidence in life and take risks. If you don't take risks, life just doesn't make any sense. Life is just there to take risks. So have the confidence, try as much as possible, because then it's gonna get exciting and then you really have the chance to truly experience and find yourself.
We'll have to add one thing. One last thing, seriously, we can't just, and while you're on this quest, please have fun, follow joy, just have fun. For me, that has been a game changer as well, to give yourself permission to enjoy the process, hold your vision and trust the process and choose joy, choose whatever lights you up. Yes.
So if people want to continue this conversation, how can they reach you?
Yeah, I would say on daily, it's Instagram. I'm on Nathalie Banaszak. Show notes maybe because
yes.
I have it.
We'll send it after.
I mostly hang out on Instagram. So Nathalie Banaszak, my name together. Yes.
Cathy on the shelf on Pepito. This will haunt me forever now. Thank you. So you can find me not in the store, but on Instagram, of course, LinkedIn. So my business platform is mostly LinkedIn. My fun platform is Instagram, Facebook, of course, my website, cathyzimmermann.eu. And that's enough.
Amazing.
And in Bali. Live.
Fantastic. So we'll send that out. And again, thank you so much. And the next panel talk will be in May. Topic TBD. So you got to stay tuned to find out more. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.